Alright, how's it going, everybody? This is Ismortah. I know, new screen, what's going on? It's board game time. And this evening, during my Friday evening, 7 p.m. Central, in this case, board game stream, going to be showing you some Dead of Winter unboxing. Because I'm using a new apparatus for the sound, let me just make sure the sound is coming out how it's supposed to. Testing 1, 2, 3. Alright, sound is a go. So yeah, purpose evening to show you unboxing of Dead of Winter. This is by no means a new game. It's a game that I've seen played on tabletop. That's a lot of fun, and I have not played it yet. I'm late getting the game, and I just feel like, hey, Friday 13th, Winter Edition, great time to unbox the game, and I just finally got the game a few weeks ago. So yeah, the purpose is just to show you what's in the game, what components, and what you get when you open up the game. As far as a learn to play or showing an actual play session, they'll be in a future stream. There's also how to play videos already out there in space. Cool, so if you like what you see, be sure to comment and follow here on twitch.tv/Ismortah. And if you missed the live stream, no worries, you can catch it the following day, as well as all my videos on YouTube at Shadow Balance Games. I know it's the first time I've done a board game in a while. It's only because I'd figured out the setup that I was going to do and quite space to do it, as well as have merchandise and games to show. So here we are, and let's just jump right into it. Dead of Winter. It's a heavy game because there's a lot of cardboard, a lot of zombies. Originally it was made by Plaid Hat Games, and then it was later Asmodee picked up the publishing. They call it a crossroads game. It's just basically kind of like you're just trying to survive with this colony of other players that you see here that you can choose from. Which everyone has their own personal goals, but you're just trying to survive each night, fighting not only zombies but also the dead of winter, the icy, freezing cold. All right, so let's open this puppy up. If you're aware, the number of players is 2 to 5. It doesn't take long to play the game if you know what you're doing. What makes the game, I don't use the word drag, but extend, is when you have the banter back and forth, accusing each other of being the traitor or being wasteful with resources, etc. Paranoia starts kicking in. Because you could have games that you don't know who the traitor is, and you can vote the wrong person off, and you can also have games that there's actually no traitor, but you don't know that. And so then you're like, yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, this one I wanted to get for the longest time. This is my favorite, one of my favorite zombie games. Another one of my favorite zombie games, which I can briefly show you. And one that I have, I don't count Eternal House on the Hill as a zombie game. I mean, it has zombies in it, but when I think of zombies, I think of like hordes of zombies, you know. Is Axis and Allies and Zombies. Don't know if I've done a video on this before, but that'd be cool to do a video of a live play as well. That's cool because like a third faction you're fighting is just zombies everywhere. Might see some of that later. We're looking at Dead of Winter. Let's see what's inside. Let's see what you guys can see. All right, it's up on Actors TV. First, we got the rule book. Again, I'm not gonna go over the rules, but I will flip through the rule book and show what's in it. Which I guess we can go ahead and take a stab at that now. So you have object of the game. This tells you all the components, which I'll show you visually here in a sec. I won't necessarily show you all of the individual cards, but I'll show you decks of cards and like examples like you see here, because I don't want to give away types of objectives and cards you might see, because part of the fun is just not knowing what's out there. Yeah, it's a lot of different cards as far as players and items, as well as what they see here called crossroads cards. So when you're halfway through going through with the players each round, if I recall, that's when it happens. You draw a crossroads card, and depending on who the player is and where you are, different story random beats happen in the middle of you're trying to do this round of survival. That just random things happen, which can be most of the time not great. You have additional components, so again, we'll show some of those. Don't worry about trying to read this if you can't. The whole idea is just to kind of show you what the rulebook looks like. And one of the things I like about this rulebook, without going through the minutia, looking at to see if the mechanics make any sense, is it has a lot of visuals. So it shows you, pictures and what the hell they're talking about, referencing, etc., etc. I normally don't go through a whole rule book, just showing you at a cursory glance what's in it, but since it's so short, which is great, rule-wise, there's not a lot of different actions you can take. It's just a lot of decisions you can make as far as where you go, what you do with items, how you spend them. A lot of different choices you can make. Okay, I won't go through the rest of the book because that's stories and alternate ways to game, so I won't show the last 2 pages. But yeah, a lot of visuals, which is good. All right, here you have the game board, looks like. Right? Oh yeah, that's right. This is the colony, which is the biggest centerpiece of the board. They have the colony you're trying to protect, where you put a bunch of tokens and stuff for stuff you're collecting for the colony. And then when you go outside the colony, you have smaller game boards when you're traversing the frigid waste and the harsh climates outside to get to these other locations. So then you have to roll exposure to try to survive. But I could probably open this guy. Give me a second here. This is packed pretty tight. Yeah. I actually had forgotten that there was a center actual game board. I thought it was just a bunch of smaller boards put together, but it's actually not true. Which is great because if you have a bigger piece of a cardstock, it might start warping if it's a bigger piece. So the fact that this is a board instead of a thin cardboard layer is actually good. It will stay put. Yeah, why this is a fun game isn't necessarily because the whole trader mechanic, because like honestly there are more fun games that do trader mechanics like The Thing or something, but it is in this game. What I think is the best thing about this game is the fact that there are hordes of zombies, and you're trying to find the most effective way to not starve, not freeze, while fighting off zombies, while doing also whatever your selfish goal is, right? Which I say that, but it's actually required for you to win the game. Like, for you to beat the game, if I recall, you have to not only survive the zombies, but then also do your personal objective. Unless your objective is sinister, then it would be have everyone die and do whatever your sinister thing is. Okay, it's a smaller board than I thought. Yeah, just a thin... That's good. It's pretty flat, pretty solid. Yeah. That's actually, I have to say, one of the nicer quality boards, actually. They just didn't go the cheapest route. Here's something printed on it, so it's actually pretty nice. All right, so here's all of the punch. I'll take it out. We're opening up stuff. I'm just not going to show you all the cards, though. I'll show you some. I don't know. If it's not a narrative card, I can show it to you. I just don't want to give away anything that's... Because part of the fun, like I said, is, I don't know, think about it. Part of the fun is the discovery, right? Like, oh, whoa, I found this. Another part of the fun is trying to figure out how to open this without cutting into the board. This is super tight. I can't get this open. Trying to see if there's like an easy way to open. There's little holes here, but I think the little holes here, if you see in the plastic, maybe it's hard to see, there's like little holes in any of this shrink wrap, and that's just to keep all of the air out so that they can make this be super tight because all the air escapes from the holes, which is great for keeping this sturdy, but then for opening it's like, how the fuck do I open this? Because it doesn't have any loose plastic bubbles I can easily just pierce through. There we go. As you can see, there's a lot of zombies. And there's just a handful of the zombies. A lot of zombies. And that's one thing that's cool about this game is you can really appreciate the effect of a zombie horde because you're putting out a horde of zombies. When stuff really starts going to shit. Alright, so a lot of different tokens. That knife token you see at the top, that's actually the first player token, so you know whose turn it is. Or who goes first, I should say, so you know the rotation as far as the crossroads. There's a bunch of the players, and these are zombies. Next up, we got, these are the smaller boards. And this is like what I was referring to about warping, what I was kind of worried about. And there's a little bit of that here, is when you have these smaller boards, they're thin pieces of cardboard instead of the very thick game board, and just prone to getting slightly curved just from the humidity. But nothing that can't be solved by just bending it, not crease it, but just like bending it, and then having something heavy on it will flatten out. Just like do that overnight. It's like these are all the different locations you can go to for picking up supplies and ammo and food and weapons, gas stations. These are player boards, police station, a bunch of other stations. I'll show you an example of the player board. And I like doing this on the player boards as well for games I design. And you see this commonplace is on your player board where you're putting stuff, also shows you key reminders and just how to fundamentally play the game. So you don't have to sit there and figure out what the fuck am I supposed to do? This way you're supposed to do. It's like, okay, these are things I can do during a turn. That's what happens during different phases. Actions that don't require an action die, whereas actions that do require an action die. Again, more on the rules you can see in a how to play video, which I might do later. You can also find online. All right, so now we have lots of decks of cards. Take a look at. Let's go ahead and take a look at the dice. It's right here. So one of the things they give you, we'll get the dice here in a sec, is plastic standees. This is for all your zombies and all your characters. So standing upright, which is cool, so adds a 3D depth to the game, so the game reading flat if you're just playing tokens, which there are a lot of tokens you place. They also give you a lot of baggies. Like, why would they do that? It's because this way you can organize, once you have all of this punched out, a place to put it all. So you can like separate different types of tokens into separate bags. I think it was like 10 bags or something. All right, now here are the dice. And one of the coolest die that you can see here, one is you have there's a lot of die, but the die are also small. So if you're hawking a lot of dice at once, which you will, you can more easily do that in your hand. And I have small hands just because the dice are a little bit smaller than regular D6s. So you can hold a lot of them. And these are die you use to determine actions you can take. Now, as far as determining your success on something, that's when you roll this exposure die, if I recall, to see if you do combat with a zombie, what happens, or if you go outside to see what happens. Whether you draw exposure or zombie bite. You take damage, or exposure, or if you get a tooth, that means you actually got bit. And then I think there's also is that the worst one? I think that is the worst one. Yeah, there's hits, exposure, and then you got bit. Very cool. I just like this because it has that really that blood look, which is pretty cool. It's not straight red, it's sort of like, red, maroon, or whatever, it's like, it's got that blood look to it. All right, then you have a lot of decks of cards. Looks like you have, maybe I don't have to go into it. You have 2 decks of items. For example, here's the food items. Of all different things you can find, like at the different locations you can go to that had smaller boards. Then you have 1 deck of, I forget what these are called. I checked the rule book, but these are basically what happens each round. Each round is a condition that you have to satisfy, as well as there's also a crossroads that happens. But then there's for the entire game, some situation that's happening with the colony and the bigger goal you have to do to actually succeed and not fail. Because you can fail if your morale goes to 0, or if your colony starves, or if they all die, or if they freeze. There's a lot of ways to lose. It's like this says, overpopulation. You have to have a certain number of food equal to non-exiled players, meaning players that are still operating within the colony. And then these are, looks like different victory conditions. Like this one says, hunger, you win the game if all of the following is true. The main objective has been completed and at least 3 food is in your hand. So see, for example, like this card, you need this to win the game, but because you're hoarding food, someone's going to think you might be the traitor because you're doing something terrible by keeping food and not feeding the colony. So that's when the paranoia starts kicking in. And this deck is your deck of all your different crossroads. So every time you play the game, there's like multiple different general goals of the game, which might be mixed into these cards. But then there's also something that happens each round, and then many different things that could happen potentially halfway through each round of players. So every time you play the game, it's going to be a little different. As well as you can have different players with different goals, so it's like not 2 games could be the same. Yeah, I won't go through opening these because I don't want to spoil the fun of showing you all the different types of items you could discover or secret objectives out there. That way it's a surprise. But I will go back to rule book to let you know what these type of cards are again. Because we just glossed over looking at really the format of the rule book, but not what it said. Because you probably couldn't read it. one of the things I'll reiterate before I get to rulebook right quick is, again, I just really, even though these individual player boards a little flimsy, a little bendy, the game board though is solid. It is so thick and it's glossy and it folds flat, has good color. It's really nice board. All right, so if I go back to the book, let you know the types of cards again. I think it's in the front. Okay. So types of cards out of all those decks. There's main objective cards for how you're playing the game. And then there's secret objective cards for players. Then there's also survivor cards, represents who you are. Item cards, stuff you pick up. Reference sheets, we talked about those smaller boards in front of each player. Crisis cards, what happens each round. Crossroads cards, and other components. Like different token, like wound tokens, noise tokens, food tokens. Like if you make too much noise, you could attract zombies, for example. You could find survivors. You can put up barricades. Yeah, a lot of things happening at once, and you kind of have to choose the most hectic thing to deal with, which may or may not always be in favor of the colony, or it may not be the right choice, but you don't know. But yeah, that looks like it's all the components of the game. Is there anything else noteworthy? I could try to see if I can get a little bit closer to see some of these zombies better. Yeah, you see there's a lot of, well, there's some variation, different types of zombies here. Like 3 different types. And they're double-sided, which is cool too. So when you have them on a standee, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, you can see the zombie. Players, there's a lot. Just as many players like you saw on the cover. Which I can show again. And a lot of dice. If you like chucking dice, it's a good game to chuck a lot of dice. The inside didn't have to be printed too, but it makes it look cool. The paper tray. And again, be sure to keep the plastic bags to hold all your stuff after you take stuff out. And that is a Dead of Winter. Let's see, this all different characters can be, and they all have different stats, better different things, worse different things. And if I recall, when your character dies, you're not out of the game. You can then be another character. Or that might be wrong. I might be confusing that with Eldritch Horror. I've seen games that you actually play as 2 characters at once, but that might be just with smaller groups. If you don't have, 4 or 5 players playing the game. But yeah, that's Dead of Winter in a nutshell. It's a very thematic game if you want to be dead in winter on Friday the 13th. Well, thanks for watching. Again, if you want to see future videos, be sure to check me out on twitch.tv/Ismortah. And if you missed my stream, catch me the following day and all my videos on YouTube at Shadow Balance Games. Updates to the schedule and what's going on, you can catch me on Twitter, otherwise known as X, at Shadow Balance. Thanks for watching, guys. Next week, I haven't figured out yet what I'm streaming. Probably be Destiny and something else as well. So check out the socials and what I'm up to. Thanks. This is Ismortah. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you next time. In the dead of winter.